Hello and welcome to How to Find Peace with Food. This is a three-part series, and my intention is that by the end of it, that you have the embodied knowledge of how your nervous system and food behaviors are related, and that by the end of it, you're filled both with hope and also with actionable steps to take on the path towards peace with food. Whether you've read my book and you already know my work, or this is your first step on this path, know that I welcome you here and I'm excited to walk with you on the path to peace with food and to support you in any way that I can. I'm going to share some slides with you right now. And so if you're somebody who likes to take notes, if you're somebody who's very studious, know that the slides will be yours after this recording. So you can just kick back and relax or take your notes anyways, whatever you prefer. You might be somebody who likes to listen to this while you're on a walk or while you're cleaning the house. Make this content yours, take it at your own pace and rhythm, and know that there's no right or wrong way to learn. And I'm here for you as your teacher to support you on your journey. Know that you can drop in your comments, questions, ahas, insights in the comment section where this workshop is hosted on Teachable, or you can directly email me at galina@purebelonging.com. Without further ado, let's jump in. I'll be sharing some slides to support our learning and orient us in this space. Again, welcome to How to Find Peace with Food. This introductory workshop also comes with my book. So if you've read my book already, know that this is a great companion to the book. And if you haven't, it's perfectly fine for this to be a first step too. We'll begin with a short orienting practice. And in this orienting practice, my invitation to you, and I'm going to turn off the slides for a moment, is to really connect with the environment around you. So first we'll connect with the surface you're sitting on. So let yourself really land in your chair, land on the couch, or if you're lucky and if you're laying in a hammock, really let yourself be supported by the hammock. Let your body be held, especially let the back of the body be held and supported. Drop your awareness down towards your feet, towards your seat. If you're leaning against the back of a chair, sense into your spine. If you're lying down, let your whole body drop down. And from here, where the back of the body is supported, let your eyes take a journey around the room. Let your eyes go where they want to go. Perhaps they're drawn to a colorful bouquet of flowers or a piece of art. Maybe your eyes want to go out the window and really check out the movement of the trees. Maybe there's a squirrel out there stealing from the bird feeder. Let your eyes go where they want to go and let your head and your neck follow. Maybe your whole spine wants to follow. Yeah. Maybe your whole body wants to turn in the direction that you're looking. And now that you have oriented around the room with your eyes, let sounds come in towards your ears. Let yourself hear close sounds and distant sounds. even my own voice as it comes towards you. Hear my voice as a sound. Hear my voice as a sound. Let sounds come in. And then also notice the pause between the sounds. Letting the sounds come in and the pause between the sounds. And then opening your nose to smell what's in the room around you. Maybe something cooking in the kitchen, or the smell of winter coming in through a cracked open window. Maybe you have an aromatic cup of tea that you can bring to your nose. Maybe you have some essential oils sitting around on your desk. And then opening yourself, your inner awareness to taste. What is something that you might be tasting in your mouth right now? Maybe you just took a sip of your tea like I did. Or there's an aftertaste of a little snack maybe that you just had. Yeah. Hmm. And last, I'm going to invite you to place your hands at your midline, just kind of the center of your body, and move your hands up and down at your midline. Move your hands up and down. Notice temperature, moisture, smoothness, or maybe stickiness. See if your hands are a little moist. Maybe you have some lotion on them and they're a little slippery. Just notice the texture of your hands. And then use your hands to squeeze the outside of your arms. And then use your hands to squeeze the outside of your legs. Great. And remind yourself, you're here. We've just connected to the 5 senses. We've just dropped into the space that you inhabit. And anytime throughout listening to this workshop, if you need to bring yourself back, if you notice yourself distracted or floating away, or maybe you feel yourself speeding up a little, that you can bring yourself back, that you can really come to your body in a sense of here and now by engaging your 5 senses. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, and your hands through your sense of touch. Yeah. Anytime that I'm speaking and you want to put me on pause, this is the beauty of a recorded piece of content, that you can really take it at your own pace and rhythm. And I really encourage you to do that. We've just connected to the 5 senses. Welcome yourself to this moment. And I welcome you here too. I welcome you here too. Now, I want to give you a bit of an overview of what we'll cover in this 3-part workshop. We'll begin with the eating cycle. I'll introduce you to nervous system basics, to the difference between the defense and attachment systems. We'll speak about cranial nerves of social engagement and early childhood development. We'll delve into how eating behaviors create regulation for the nervous system. And throughout, we will have practices that can support you in challenging times. Now, a little bit about me, a few words about myself, especially if you haven't read my book and I'm new to you, this might be a really helpful piece here. I started my work as a movement teacher and body worker And I was working with pain, especially chronic pain, and pre and rehab. And I found, despite being, I believe, a good enough and quite talented movement professional and body worker, that when dealing with chronic pain, with autoimmunity, with syndromes, that the people that I was working with had complex trauma histories. And so I set off on a journey 10 years ago to become a very, very well resourced and prepared trauma practitioner. I trained in somatic experiencing, somatic practice, the neuroaffective relational model, and kind of these are the comprehensive modalities that are our industry standards to address shock and early developmental trauma. In addition, I have many other trainings working with pre and perinatal, in utero trauma, collective ancestral trauma. But what was really, really interesting is that on this whole journey of working with both shock and developmental trauma, my inspiration the whole time was to really support the people I was working with. I wanted to make sure that I can really do my due diligence and be very well prepared to work with people who have trauma. And as it often happens, sometimes what we want to teach and gift others is the gift that we need most ourselves. I was very surprised and completely unprepared for the gift of somatic healing. In the process of learning how to become a somatic practitioner, my own physiology was able to unburden from my own childhood and later life trauma. And a side effect of my somatic healing work was that my eating disorder and body image disorder completely dissolved. This is not something that I had anticipated, but it set me on a journey to start to teach nervous system healing for people who deal with disordered eating. It was not something that I planned. It's not something that I pursued. It's something that was literally the gift of somatic healing in my own body and has allowed me to share this with the world. I love teaching. I love learning. And the only thing I love more than learning is teaching. So in the summer of 2016, I set off on my first kind of exploration to see if my somatic healing journey could be supportive for others who are dealing with eating disorders. And very soon, the answer was a resounding yes. So in the last 7 years, almost 8 years now, most of my work has really focused on working with supporting people with disordered eating. In 2019, I created the Pure Belonging online school, and I have been teaching my work in small groups, 4 to 6 people, in workshops like this one, and retreats. I published a trauma healing approach for emotional eating, my book, Peace with Self, Peace with Food, in 2022. And after seeing thousands of people get freedom from shame, guilt, and food obsession through working with my book, and hundreds complete successfully my transformation group journey in my group and one-on-one program, I know that working with the nervous system is really a compass that helps navigate our food suffering, and that how I got better is not a random thing, but it is the outcome of organizing the biology in a very particular way after experiencing complex trauma and shock trauma as well. Here's some of my friends and readers who have been so kind to contribute images of themselves with the book. And if you hop on my website, in the Peace with Food Transformation group page, you can see how many people have really experienced freedom from food suffering, just really learning how to support themselves through nervous system healing and somatic practices. So that being said, I want to move from me to you, a bit about you, and perhaps you can pause the recording here and just consider, What brought you here? What brought you here? And what does peace with food mean to you? If you too, like I enjoy it, if you too could enjoy peace with food, what does that mean to you? Maybe it's something that you can journal about as you put me on pause. We are all so different. And the way peace with food shows up in one person's life might be different from how it shows up in another person's life. We're really inviting you to think about, what does peace with food mean to you? I would like to also give you a few notes on self-care. Because as I'm speaking about what creates our food suffering, oftentimes parts of us can get touched and awakened that might feel uncomfortable, especially when I speak about birth, in utero experiences, early developmental environment. So at any point, you can pause, orient around the room, which we just did through the 5 senses. You can place hands on your heart and your belly. Spend about 3 to 5 minutes there, or you can give yourself a hug. You can push into your feet and your seat, just to really sense the support. You can get up and stroll, move, stretch. Or you can take notes as you listen. Sometimes that keeps us present and allows us to feel more able to host our inner experiences as we listen. I would love for you to choose one or more of these to be your self-care plan as you listen to me today. And maybe you can put a note somewhere and keep it handy. If I feel overwhelmed or if I feel like I'm floating away, I'm going to pause this recording and this is how I'm going to take care of myself. All right. So here we go. Here we go with kind of the intro to what I want you to know. Every time you eat, it's not just you and the food. An eating event happens within a context. You will come to the plate, to the meal, to the table, to the drive-through in different states based on what's happening inside and outside of you. Based on what's happening inside and outside of you. And each time that you eat, it's an event that has a time before you begin to eat. There's an onset of the event, a beginning. There's a middle, there's an end, and a time after the end. In nervous system work, we call this sequencing. There's a sequence of these events that follow each other. And what I propose, and what we see in our work, in our Peace with Food transformation groups, when we work with students one-on-one, is that as you slow down, you can tune into the somatic form, which is a shorthand for what is your body doing, and a physiological state that underlies each of those phases. So eating has multiple phases, and your body will be in a particular form and state in each phase. It kind of looks like this. In our nervous system drawings and kind of attempts to represent very complex physiology in simple ways, you will often see these graphs that we have a red side of the hill and a blue side of the hill. And essentially what we have is With the red, we represent an activation cycle. Any movement towards exploration, curiosity, excitement, interest. And also, if we don't feel safe, that is also the sympathetic drive that puts us into fight or flight. As an event completes, the system can start to come towards a settling and a calming and a deactivation, which on the blue side of the hill, which was usually drawn in the blue side of the hill, we will see pleasure, contentment, joy, settling, relaxation, calm, ease, well-being, yeah, satisfaction. So the way that an eating cycle works or an eating event works is before the event, ideally, we notice that we're hungry, then we can reach for food, then we can eat, consume, enjoy the food. Then there's an end to the event. And then the system can move from eating to digestion, relaxation, integration. So let's take just one of those phases. Let's take the before. So I invite you to remember the last time that you had a meal, for example, breakfast this morning or lunch, or if you want to use a time that you had an emotional eating episode, bringing that episode to mind. And just coming into the before you begin eating. What are you sensing in your body? What sensations are present? Openness, relaxation, calm, ease, flow, movement. Or perhaps there's a revved up feeling. There's charge. There's tension. There's heart fluttering. There's stomach constriction, right? What are the sensations? Maybe sensations are missing. Maybe there's a numbness. A lack of sensation, an emptiness, a fogginess, a dissociation. Yeah, that's possible too. And then what emotions are present? Are you excited, curious, content, or maybe frustrated, afraid, disappointed, angry, worried, overwhelmed? What thoughts are you aware of? Are there thoughts present? And what's the form of the body? What's the posture? What are the gestures that you're making? How are you moving around? Are you kind of sluggish and slow, or are you moving around hastily, fast, rushing? And then in the relational space, are you withdrawing? Are you moving into aloneness, into separateness, into isolation? Or are you, on the contrary, reaching out for connection, for closeness, for intimacy, for understanding, for a conversation? All of this, sensations, emotions, thoughts, form, and relational openness or closeness, and moving towards or away, all of these make the moment before the meal. Now imagine that all of these ingredients also go into the moment of choosing your food, then the process of eating your meal, then being done, the end of your meal, and then moving towards digestion assimilation. You can see how much is happening in the body at any given time. And I want you to be able to understand why being mindful of what is happening is just one tiny ingredient into how do we reorganize the biology so that we can eat. Because just being mindful of what's happening is not enough. Now, here's an example, a little case study here. The sensations in the body are tension, charge, and buzzing. The emotions, upset, impatient, frustrated. The thoughts, I can't do this. Nobody's helping me. What is the body doing? What's the form of the body? Moving fast, feeling rigid, tight, and kicking stuff. And then in the relational space, there's a movement of disconnection, not wanting to see anyone. So here's our little case study. Let's call her Kate. And let's say that here's Kate before her meal. And there's all this information coming from the body, coming top down, right? Things that are coming from thinking, things that are coming from what we can have experience of as cognition, as understanding, as beliefs, as ideas. And then there's all this information coming from the body, bottom up, sensations, emotions, the form, the posture, and the relational attitude of the body, all that's coming. And so there's all this information that's coming, and there's a lot of it. And it can very much feel overwhelming to have all this information before a meal. Now, at this point, you might be catching this. If all of this is going on, where is the information about the meal? And that is the million-dollar question. So what we call the eating cycle, the ability to sense hunger, know what is going to satisfy it, obtaining what's going to satisfy it, being able to eat it, and being able to feel satisfaction and stop and move towards digestion, what we call the eating cycle. It depends on information. So before you eat, before your meal, this question, am I aware that I'm hungry? Am I aware what I need and how much I need? Is a very important question. It allows us to sense hunger, but it also allows us to know what are the nutrients and what are the ingredients and what are the foods that are going to meet our needs. Because if we can answer that correctly, then the next phases of the meal just fall into place. While we're eating, the question is, am I able to enjoy and take in the nourishment that I have on my plate? So if I've chosen well, according to what my body needs, I will be able to enjoy and take in the nourishment because that's just what I need. And then if I'm able to enjoy it, then answering at the end of the meal, am I able to stop eating? Can I rest and allow my body to start digesting and assimilate what I need and what I just ate? It becomes really easy to answer these questions from the body. And I believe this is very much the hope of intuitive eating too, that the body is a clear vessel where these feedback loops about hunger, about the process of eating, and satiety, that these feedback loops, they're biologically wired. And I believe in its greatest core that the intention of intuitive eating is to really tap into these feedback loops. That the body will tell us that we're hungry, that it will tell us what we need and how much we need, and that there'll be the ability and capacity to enjoy and take in nourishment. And then if that's been right, that we can have contentment, enjoyment, and we can stop and allow the next phase, which is digestion assimilation, to help. That is not the case when somebody's body is full of noise because of complex and shock trauma. But if the body was clear of that, all that noise, that, that's the hope, I believe, in its greatest core, that intuitive eating can be that. Yeah. Now, in a perfect world, here we have Kate here, very happy, jumping over rainbows. I'm aware that I'm hungry. I know what I need, and I know how much I need. And I'm able to enjoy and take in the nourishment that I have on my plate. I'm able to stop eating, rest, and allow my body to start digesting and assimilating what I just ate. This is what I call peace with food. Because if these feedback loops are working, then I don't need to be thinking so much about what I eat and what I need. I don't need to be calculating. I don't need to be making plans. I don't need to be using my brain to be managing my body. My body manages itself. And like I said, that's not the case when the psychobiological adaptations to trauma have impacted the body. But this is the ideal case in the eating cycle. And I want you to know that this eating cycle feedback loop relationship with how we eat can be completely restored. But in order for us to be able to tap into this, there's some other work that we need to do first. So here's what I want you to know and remember, that emotional eating happens outside the normal eating cycle. That it has its own form, reason, and psychobiological organization. Emotional eating happens outside of the feedback loops of the eating cycle that I just showed you. That instead of, I know that I'm hungry, I know what I need, I know what the nutrients are that my body needs, and I can go get them, and I can enjoy this meal, and I can stop eating and let my body assimilate the nutrients that it needs. This is the eating cycle. The emotional eating is when our physiology and the adaptations to overwhelming or traumatic events literally hijack the eating cycle for their own other purposes. Emotional eating happens outside the normal eating cycle. It has its own form, reason, and psychobiological organization. Now, traditional definitions of emotional eating will name it as a behavior which aims to self-medicate and self-regulate mood, something that we do in response to negative emotions. But I would really like to broaden that in this 3-part workshop that you're taking right now, so that you can start to include our neurobiology and nervous system responses to trauma. And we can start to see that emotional eating provides the body with short-term biological homeostasis at times that its own capacity to autoregulate is overwhelmed. We see that the emotional eating that we experience is a part of the overwhelm of the system and not separate from it. Not separate from it. And a little break here for some nervous system humor. Whoever named the nervous system did a great job. Did a great job. What is the nervous system? What is the nervous system? It is the central system that commands the functions and complex actions of your body, largely unconsciously, and responds to your external and internal environment moment to moment. It's responsible for perception, cognition, movement, the function of all your organs, and it regulates and coordinates all of your body systems. The nervous system is a beautiful compass to navigate life and human behavior, because if we were tuning into another system, like a subsystem, say that we tune into the cardiovascular system or the digestive system, if I ask you right now what's happening in your colon, it might be kind of hard for you to let me know. However, if I ask you what is the state of your nervous system, that's very easy to learn how to do. It's very easy to learn which of the 3 predominant states your nervous system is in. Whereas it's really kind of hard to tell what's happening in your colon and how to use that information, because so much there is happening unconsciously and cannot really be observed easily. There are exquisite body workers who can touch and let you know exactly what's going on. But for you to be able to perceive moment to moment, that's really hard. However, the nervous system lends itself both to observation and also to conscious influence, something that we call a regulation. There are 3 states in which your nervous system can be found moment to moment. Right now, as I'm sitting at my computer and it's a wonderful warm day here in Colorado, and I'm really enjoying talking to you who are listening to this workshop, my nervous system is in the ventral state. That's the one on the very left. You can think of the ventral state as our safe and social, friendly, open, calm, connected, collaborative, mindful, kind, compassionate, most beautiful human state. We have access to the best parts of ourselves. I feel curious, I feel open, I want to be helpful, I feel generous. But that's also because there is no threat to my system right now where I'm sitting. I mean, the most uncomfortable thing that might happen to me is if something happens to the internet or my computer or my microphone. And these are really not threats, they can be solved. So I'm pretty much at ease. It's costing me very little energy to sit here with you. However, if I hear a loud noise and something gets my attention from the outside, my heart rate is going to accelerate. I'm going to get concerned and worried, and I might even jump out of my chair and go to the door and see what's happening. That would be me entering the sympathetic state, which, if the threat is big enough, will feel like fight or flight. I will really need to speed up my physiology in order to meet whatever the challenges are in that moment. Now, if the challenge is too big, the dorsal system, and I'm going to go into detail into those systems, will take over, and I'll be in the freeze state. I'll collapse or shut down, or worse, faint. So our nervous system has these 3 predominant states that it can be in: ventral, safe and social friendly; sympathetic, aroused, fight, flight; or dorsal, shut down, freeze. I have some animal friends here show us the 3 states. On the very left, we have Mr. Goofy Dog. This is me on most days. I always joke that in any classroom, I'm like the Labrador. I'm always so excited to be learning anything. Then, you know, on more stressed out days, I might feel more like that tiger, like back off, back off. Don't tell me what to do. And if there's actual threat to my body, you know, I might be running, or I might be hiding or trying to get away from what feels dangerous. And then shut down, Mr. Possum on the very right here is helping us remember that just like humans can go into a deep depression and shut down, animals shut down for short periods of time to preserve their own life force and preserve their own life. And you can see how each of these states has its place in the palette of the nervous system, that really we can be in a predominant state based on what's happening around us and inside of us moment to moment. And a healthy nervous system is not one that's like the goofy dog all the time, that's always friendly, that's always open, that's always kind. Oh, Galina is always so happy. No, a healthy nervous system is one that can change its state flexibly and doesn't get and stay stuck in a particular state. What we will be doing in part 2 is really looking in detail into how these systems function. But I want to give you a bit of an overview before we move to part 2. Your sympathetic nervous system is really based on the function of the sympathetic nerves that exit from the sympathetic ganglia around your thoracic spine. And the goal of that system is to give us energy so that we can function, so that we can get things done. When we're feeling safe, it provides energy and mobilization. For example, my sympathetic system right now is working together with the ventral in order for me to be able to have the energy to speak to you and make this recording. However, if there's threat to the system, it will participate in the activation of survival responses, fight, flight, and what I like to call fix. I need to fix this. I need to do something right away. The sympathetic system limits our connection to others, limits our digestion, which is something that comes really important when we speak about eating behaviors and food suffering. And it limits emotional processing. It's really the system that's most active when it's time to do and act. Do, go, go, go. The parasympathetic system is the opposite branch of the autonomic nervous system. Now, the nerves of the parasympathetic system, they don't exit from the spine, that other than deep down in the sacrum, they exit from the brain, and we call these the cranial nerves. And the cranial nerves, we have 12 pairs of them, will exit from the brain through tiny little holes in your skull, and they will activate your eyes, your nose, your ears, your throat, your tongue, your heart, your lungs, and other internal organs. And you can think of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system as balancing each other out. Once the sympathetic system has been activated, the parasympathetic system comes in to slow things down. It allows deactivation, relaxation, and rest after activity or a stressful event. It stimulates our connection. It stimulates digestion, which is also why we know it as rest and digest. It allows the repair of tissues. It supports sleep and recovery, and it allows emotional processing. Now, we're going to look at these two systems here together. As you can see, they're balancing each other out within what we call a window of tolerance or window of capacity or zone of resilience, which is a physiological zone of functioning where the activation cycles and the deactivation cycles, sympathetic and parasympathetic, balance each other out. I hear a loud noise, my system speeds up, my heart revs up, I go attend to the noise, and then come back, sit at my computer, and my system slows down. My sister calls me that she's having an emergency, my system speeds up, I jump into my car, I meet her at the ER, I help her get her medication, I take her home, I make her chicken soup. My whole system is revved up for me to have energy to do all of this. But as soon as I leave her safe in her home with her roommate, I come home and I make myself a cup of tea and I watch something fun on television and I go to bed, and my system is able to slow down and I can fall asleep. I'm not stuck in the sympathetic arousal where my digestion is not happening and I'm go, 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 and I can't slow down. I sped up to what was needed, and then I'm able to slow down and recuperate. Now, in part 2, we're going to look at how trauma impacts the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems, and how both a history of in utero, perinatal trauma, early developmental omissions, and things that also happen that are overwhelming to the system can make a system be overactive or can make a system stay stuck in the sympathetic arousal or the parasympathetic dorso hypoarousal freeze. And that actually that can make it very, very hard for the eating cycle to happen and for us to have clear information about what it is that we need to eat, that it can impact how we're eating, and it can impact our ability to stop and move towards digestion. All that being said, thank you so much for your attention in this part 1. I will meet you in part 2. We're going to really go into detail of what the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system need to do when we've had overwhelming events, and what are some of the symptoms that you can recognize in your own self, and how you can support your nervous system out of these more chronic adaptations into regaining its flexibility. Again, this is an introduction into this work, and I really hope that your curiosity is fed here with what I'm sharing. If you have any questions, please comment below or send me an email. I'm happy to address them, and I'll see you in part 2.